from sailing penalty flags to flying fists, tensions ran very high during last night's Musket Bowl game in Jonesboro. This year's game ended in a huge fight between players, even some fans, even some parents. Witnesses said when the game ended, players gathered on the field to shake hands, but as soon as they did, the sportsmanlike gesture turned into unsportsmanlike conduct as both teams had members throwing punches. Now TSSAA is looking into the incident, considering handing down some punishments to both schools.
To have good sportsmanship throughout the year is very important. If it is violated in some form or fashion, obviously fighting would be an extreme violation of it. That's obviously something we don't like to see at all.
News Channel 11's Jake Young was on the field right there in the middle of it, his camera rolling when the fight broke out. Jake, thanks for joining us tonight at 5. You've covered sports for years. You've lived sports all your life. Have you seen anything like that before?
Not in person. You know, I've heard a lot about different fights that have happened. A lot of times it happens during football with so many people out there, tensions running high, especially in a rivalry game like this. Never have seen something like this actually in person.
Daniel Boone and David Crockett high schools are banned from the postseason for 3 years and need to pay more than $4,700 in fines. The TSSAA announced the stiff penalty late this afternoon, a swift decision ahead of tomorrow's announcement of postseason brackets. Both Boone and Crockett will appeal on November 13th. The TSSAA said both schools failed to take disciplinary action, but we found out tonight that is not the case. Today, 3 David Crockett high school football players were suspended. Crockett Athletic Director Josh Kite says he's hoping to clear up the misinformation.
2 local schools today made a final plea for reduced postseason suspensions following a fight at the Musket Bowl last month.
Yeah, Daniel Boone and David Crockett high school officials attended the TSSAA meeting in Murfreesboro today. The schools appealed the board's decision to suspend the football teams from postseason play for 3 years, and the punishment that included a nearly $5,000 fine for each school. News Channel 11's Micah Smith was the only local reporter at that meeting. She's in your corner tonight with the reasons why school officials say the board should reconsider.
There's a push, both shoving.
David Crockett High School principal Andy Hare showed the TSSAA a video of the fight that brought him before the board asking for an appeal.
No one in this room feels more guilt and responsibility than I do.
Hare says Crockett accepts the almost $5,000 fine, but the 3-year postseason suspension was harsh.
I'm just asking for leniency on that.
Instead, Hare suggested this.
We asked that all fines and penalties imposed to this point be sufficient. We've already lost a playoff game, so that was one of the 3 years suspension. According to the bylaws, when that happens, there are fines that are imposed with that. We'll agree to pay that.
TSSAA's initial penalties stated that neither school punished players. Hare explained to the board that after Crockett's investigation was complete, players involved were disciplined.
In addition to losing their playoff game, they were going to be suspended for the first 2 regular season games of the year, for the start of the school year.
Then it was Daniel Boone High School's turn for an appeal.
Totally regret that we're down here at this time for these circumstances.
Boone also did not fight the fine, but asked for leniency on the suspension. TSSAA Assistant Director Matthew Gillespie says the board will take both schools' explanations into consideration.
They could lighten the penalty, they could vote to keep it the same, they could vote to increase it. And it's going to be based on multiple factors. What's presented to the board at this meeting, information the staff previously had.
Gillespie says both schools could get different appeal outcomes. Hare says he won't speculate, but hopes that the board will reconsider the initial penalty. Micah Smith, News Channel 11, in your corner.
Both Daniel Boone and David Crockett High School say, again, they are going to pay the fine. The TSSAA will tell both schools their final decision tomorrow morning. We'll let you know what that decision is just as soon as it becomes available.
David Crockett and Daniel Boone High School's penalties for a post-game Musket Bowl fight have been reduced. The TSSAA took $1,000 off an initial fine of $4,700 and also removed 1 year from the 3-year playoff ban. Both schools were hoping that this year's ban and the nearly $5,000 fine would be the only penalties, but they did not get exactly what they asked for. But David Crockett's principal says he is satisfied with the outcome.
I just want everybody to know that we're sorry it happened. I know both schools are. We're not proud of what happened. Neither school is, and we're ready to move forward.
Both schools will pay the fine with money earned from ticket sales.